Hi guys, it's Cindy
And Michael?
from Part-Time Permies, and it looks like we have an active chat going. Wow. So we have a bit to talk about today, and thank you guys for joining us. Let's see, who do we have today? Noah's Ark, one of our regulars. Kiri Hyatt, another regular. Is it the Grateful Soonite or Sunnight? Not sure how to. Is it soon like coming soon or sun like the sun shines? It's the first time I've seen you in their chat room. That's awesome. Welcome. If I didn't notice you before, I'm sorry. Uh, and then Papa Truck's Prepstetter, we've had I think before.
Yeah, a few times.
Your mom's in. Hello, hello. Um, so got a number of people watching this week. Awesome, you guys. So we do have got to walk grandson. Yep. Oh my gosh, and someone already mentioned the humidity, and yeah, it's crazy humid up here in Michigan right now.
Yeah, it's really coming this afternoon.
So like the sun shines. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, no, we had rain yesterday, and on market day, so all that cleared up, I guess, a little bit
After
as
the
the day.
first hour, we set up in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Yeah, that was
Actually,
fun.
we caught a very heavy storm, a slight lull, and then a moderately heavy
Yeah,
storm. Other markets we were hearing got absolutely pounded, but it was very wet the first hour.
yeah. And right when we're setting up, because they have some sheltered areas, but we have a tent set up in the middle of the market. And I didn't stay for market yesterday. That was yesterday, yeah. I ended up going to do some paperwork at work, but I helped set up.
Convenient, wasn't it?
But I helped set up in the middle of the rain and it cleared up after I left. So not so convenient. My shoes were soaking wet even by the end of market when I went back to it. So
My shoes, I never really noticed. I had my work clogs on.
I don't. Well, I had tennis shoes. They soak in the
Yeah,
rain
the
like
work
crazy.
clogs are fairly, they at the art over the ankle. Obviously, it leaks, but
Yes, the new another newcomer, Rolling Homestead and Wild Edibles in Wisconsin. That's awesome. So right over Lake Michigan from us, probably. We're actually within probably about 40 minutes of Lake Michigan on the Michigan side. Um, so cool, a bunch of neighbors here. But anyway, your feet didn't get wet. My feet got soaked.
not overly wet. Was it noticeable? I guess it was slightly damp.
My jeans got wet, but then again, they dried faster than my tennis
We had
shoes
a lot
did.
of people that didn't show up for market.
Yeah,
There were a lot of vendors
still did all right.
ditched. Yeah, we had a pretty good average good week, which
For August and a rainstorm.
yeah, in the end of
Yeah,
sort of vacation, we find
yeah,
actually when there's less vendors and bad weather, our weeks don't vary greatly. We still have tend to still have decent business, which makes it well worth being there.
yeah. So those of you guys who are new to our channel, new to what we do, we don't focus that much on business, but Mike does have a startup pasta business that we bring his extruded pasta to the market every week. And otherwise, our general focus is anything food related on this channel, basically anything from the ground to the table. So foraging, gardening, chickens, cooking, because Mike's a chef. So you'll never see me do the cooking unless it's really, really simple. Although you've made some nice simple dishes on our channel as well, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Building anything that has anything to do with growing also plays a role, and we're starting a food forest. So lots and lots of stuff going, and I have lots of ideas for videos to put together to come. But this week we really just I got one video done. I need to wrap up a second one. I guess it'll be the first one for this next week. But we did do a video called Making Nocino Part 2, which basically is the second part from what to do with your underripe green walnuts, which was black walnuts. Um, so we started a playlist with these two videos, and we will have a third video on that, which will be the tasting probably around the holiday time, maybe just after the holidays or on the holiday time frame. Of course, I guess if we taste it on Christmas, we'll probably post the video of that afterwards.
Yeah, we'll just I don't know whenever it's convenient.
Yep.
It's not like
So
we're gonna drink it all at that moment.
no, no, we could do another. We can taste it privately and do another tasting another time on the show.
There's
Yeah,
2 batches that are each a little under a liter, so
yeah.
there's plenty to. I don't think it's something you want to drink huge amounts of.
No,
It's a nice, should be a nice flavor.
it's basically aperitif or
Yep,
digestif,
aperitif or digestif. So
depending on how you use it.
aromatized,
Liquor.
flavored. Yep.
And
We were talking with
Stefan,
Stefan, who immediately saw the video and said his mother used to make it
yeah,
in France. He grew up in the country of France. I mean, in the
in the
countryside of
countryside,
France, aside from
in
the.
the country of France.
And he goes, "Oh, I remember making that." And he says, "I think it's a little different." And he got the recipe from his mother, and it turns out it's actually pretty similar, although they use neutral spirits, like all of them. They use a plum brandy which is great. I think that works really
And
well.
they use wine.
And they use a bunch of red wine in it,
Yeah.
which makes it more of an aromatized wine. Which, again, being French or Northern Italy, they do a lot of aromatizing and herbing and spicing of wine. So that makes tons of sense.
The Living Garden says there's a lot of them around there, green walnuts. Yeah, we actually use them when they're very young, only like about golf ball sized. So we harvested a bunch of early walnuts in end
Yeah,
of
we're
July, or sorry, end of June,
end of
early
June,
July.
early July. We're too late now
Yeah,
because the shells are developing. It really
yeah,
typically it's done in Europe on the 24th, 25th of
25th.
June.
Yeah.
Um, but
What
depending on
saint's
the
day is it?
seasonality, yeah, I think it's St. Peter, St. Paul's.
One of the saint days. I'm not
It's
good
one
with
of the
those.
two. And so it's typical to do it then.
Because you
Uh,
could cut through the
our
husk.
seasons are pretty close, so I think with you, if you're within a couple weeks of that, depending on where
Yeah.
you live, it should be fine.
Yeah, if you're, well, I think now is probably too late regardless of where you're at, right? For
Yeah,
this season
yeah.
because
You're
those hulls are getting
getting
hard.
ready into harvesting
Yeah.
walnuts to be used to crack the nut and
Yeah.
use the nut, not the. Yeah.
So the rolling homestead. It's awesome. That's what we do here. Free range chickens. I'm sorry. The I do want to give a heads up. There is about a almost 30-second delay. So we see comments probably 30 seconds after you post them.
It depends on the day, but
Yeah. Right
anywhere
now.
between 7 and 30 or 40-second delay, and
Yeah.
we're usually 20 or 30 seconds
So you do
behind.
free ranger, red ranger, meat birds, canning, doing back to Eden garden method. We don't quite do back to Eden. We use a lot of modified, more leaf mulch than anything. We don't use wood chips so much right now unless we could get our hands on some. But really, we've been putting all our leaves into the garden in the fall, and then if we have any more that accumulate or we didn't get into the fall, we do early spring and mulch with those, and it's actually built up our soil over the last couple of years pretty nicely. So that's worked very well. Um, and they do break down similar to your wood chips.
Cut our grass. That seems like ages ago. Last Monday, cut the grass for what, the second time all year. Our main our shaded
Yeah,
area that we let grow up. We've been trying to manage it differently,
yeah,
and we got tons of rain in the last
it's
2
crazy.
weeks. So I think it was the second time all year that I cut the
Oh,
main area after I scalped it and we reseeded.
since June, because we did get a ton of rain in like April and May.
I only cut it. I cut it once when we scalped it to seed
Yep,
it,
that's
and then
true.
I cut it once in end of
Yeah.
June, and then I cut it on Monday. I cut the perimeter and other areas on need.
Yeah. So saying the back to Eden is any heavy mulch doesn't have to be wood chips. I think most people do wood chips, but
That's because they're accessible.
yeah, they are easily accessible, but I don't think we are probably as heavy as some do on that, but we're just building up what we have using what we have on property. So it is still, I would say, modified back to Eden, very similar. Um, Although we need to chop and drop a bunch of stuff now, but that's another story. In fact, I think I have a picture of part of our garden.
The garden's a little overgrown. We haven't spent that much time.
But we also
cleaning it out.
do a lot of biointensive. So we overplant. And this is probably even more than what we normally overplant with. But we have so many flowers in this picture. You mainly see the flowers. You see the cosmos, the the marigolds, the amaranth. I can see in that. There's
I kind
also
of dropped
zinnias.
most of the amaranth in one place accidentally. I know it's very small, but I got a few feet down the row on a blend, and all of a sudden I realized I was out of amaranth. I'm like, oops, I think that was
A lot.
200 seeds or 500 seeds. I was like, oops.
Yeah, but in
So
that mix, we also have tomato plants and pepper plants and herbs, and some places we have beans. So we definitely do a good mix of plants together. I find the pepper plants do the best in that scenario because I think it keeps the moisture in, and they're really tropical plants, so they do really well when they have that moisture around them. Tomatoes, maybe not as much, but they help my pepper plants, and the tomatoes will grow higher. Bless you. So the tomatoes will grow higher and do well at the tops of the plant. So, and they are definitely starting to come in quite a bit. We need
yeah.
to get out in the garden again.
We were getting a little bit of late blight because we got very humid, and then we're getting not cool mornings, but we were getting mornings where there was a lot of dew and humidity,
A lot of fog.
and we
Yeah.
don't have all of them pulled up real well. So we've definitely tossed some that we were catching some blight and
Yeah.
trying to pull and throw them before more of them get affected.
Another thing I find helps is that it does help keep the pests down a little bit on the plants because the plants are so, like the similar plants are so spread out from each other. They're semi-close, but not horribly close. So there's less movement between plants. Although we've had a couple hornworms, it hasn't been as bad as we've had in the past.
No, 2 years ago it was pretty bad.
Yeah. And the chickens are now starting to eat them, which they didn't like them originally. They were scared of them originally. So Papa Truck Pep Setter has amaranth this year. We should start. We should be able to start harvesting seeds from them. I started shaking out the flowers a little bit um, to get the grain. I think I got about as many bugs in there as grain, though, so I'm not sure I'm liking that.
We may be saving it for replanting. I don't know if
Yeah.
we are going to use it
Or
for,
feeding chickens, or
yeah, or we'll use a lot of the stuff, the grain, if we get something, because we don't have ways to mill it
yeah,
or thresh it so easily.
you can still
So
soak it and cook it. That
yeah, you can make a porridge
yeah,
or a risotto or something of that style. But yeah, we have it's if we can hold any of it, it's an opportunity to throw things to the chickens in the winter
yeah.
and cut down feed and give them something a little different. So that's
Some so we'll see, and that should it's just barely starting to go to seed here, so that should definitely go to seed more over the next week or two. And I hear it'll start raining seeds basically, which means it'll probably self seed for next year. So I'm guessing I'm not planting any next year.
yeah, and we'll probably get some growing.
Yeah,
We've been getting buckwheat coming up, which is good.
yeah,
What else? We've had a couple other. Well, we always have seeds from our scratch mix,
yes.
which at the
We've
end of
had
the very
sorghum.
end of the season, beginning of the season. So we get sorghum and
So we put the chickens in
millets
the
and other
garden.
things end up
Yeah,
growing, which we don't really worry about. In fact, picking some of those heads is useful to get back to the chickens.
exactly. We've put the chickens in the garden late fall and or early spring to help fertilize the garden and to help spread some of that mulch and start breaking down, mixing the manure into that bunch of leaves that we put out there. Hello, Christy. Uh, so uh, because we put them in there and because we give them some scratch at times, we do get volunteer sunflowers and volunteer sorghum and some buckwheat and other things that we have growing in there.
A little bit of oats.
Yeah, we've had oats, which is kind of fun.
We've had barley previously, but that was
Mhm.
with some dirty straw.
Yeah,
That it was barley straw. It turned out.
yeah. So which is fine. We just feed it to the chickens. But anyway, so garden is definitely looking like a jungle, but it's kind of fun because there's lots of pretty flowers, and I've been taking a bunch of pictures. If you guys have seen, we're on Instagram too, so I'm often posting a lot of the pictures I'm taking through the week onto Instagram. I was playing around with some programs to schedule, and I was yesterday and ended up seeing what times it would auto schedule things. So I ended up posting, I think, 4 different flower pictures yesterday, but that was fun. Mainly zinnias and cosmos, I think.
Christy came in a few minutes
Yeah.
ago.
Hi, Chrissy. Yeah, I said hi.
How did you?
I did. Yesterday after the market, we went for a walk nearby, and saw some of tons of different kinds of mushrooms.
Mushrooms. We've been getting rain every 2 to 3 days for
Yeah.
about the last 2 weeks. Most of the state's still really dry, but we have been catching a lot of the stuff off the water, and we've had some pretty heavy downpours and soakings.
Hmm.
We've ended up with um, we've ended up with lots of different mushrooms, kind of an early peak for August. And our foraging friends are like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out
Yeah.
there. So we took a little run around to see, and there is a lot of stuff, things we hadn't really seen before.
No. And we
Definitely
were
new summer varieties, because last summer was so dry, nothing was growing at all.
now I didn't record our walk on video, but I did take a bunch of pictures, so I'll show you a few that we've identified some so far. There are probably almost, I don't know, 15 or 20 different varieties at least that we
It was a
saw.
pretty good, yeah, and we were covering 5 acres, 3 to 5
More
acre
than that. Yeah,
area.
maybe 5 to 7, I would think.
I guess, yeah, I mean, maybe we're
Yeah.
covering 10 acres, but the main concentration of
Yeah.
items were all in about
One area.
1 to 2 acres.
Yeah.
And so that amount of variety in the midsummer, I've never seen that. It's
Yeah.
more like when you get your prime fall harvest in your like third week of, September, the cool down, you get the rain. That was surprising.
Yeah, so I'll show you a few pictures of the ones we've identified so far. Some of these are edible, some of them are definitely poisonous and don't want to eat toxic mushrooms. This one I'll show you first is an edible. It is a spiny puffball. It is a small type of puffball. It's only edible when it's white in the center. When it gets too old, it starts turning color in the center before it spores, and that will make you sick. But when it's white, it's fine. The problem is with this tiny puffballs is that a lot of other mushrooms start as what they call button mushroom, just poking up out of the ground when they're small. They look a lot like the tiny
You
puffballs.
can play a game and just you can tell us if you know or think they're edible or not edible.
Oh, we could do that. I'll go through the next ones with that. So you do want to, I will say you do want to be careful with these though, because the giant ones you can pretty much eat as long as they're white in the center. The giant ones are easy. They get really quite big. So those are pretty darn safe to identify and eat.
And we are not professional foragers. Michigan has a certification
for mushroom
which
foraging.
we have not, which allows 20 types of mushrooms to be sold commercially or through farmers markets. We don't have that, and basically we don't eat any of the mushrooms we pick, even if, well, morels we do.
The ones we're sure of.
Chanterelle I probably would.
And
There's
reishi we're
not,
fine with.
yeah, there's not much beyond that. We have friends that we might bring them to, or we might evaluate or come back and look at them.
Giant puffball, I think we're fine.
Yeah, but in general, we don't eat the things that we go out
Even the
and cut
maitake,
ourselves.
we're okay. There's a few easy ones that we'll do.
We haven't seen maitake for, we've been
Not
waiting.
this
We
year.
haven't seen them for 2 years.
Yeah.
We had great ones my first year here.
Yeah. We had giant.
I like
Baller
maitake's
shiitake.
roast. They grill or smoke roast really nice.
So yeah, so if you guys want, and now there's a bit of a delay, so maybe I'll run through these pictures twice, and you can tell me. So the first one I told you is edible, but you got to be careful because you got to know that what it is and
these
make
were
sure
small.
you know.
These were golf ball, quarter size.
Small.
Yeah, they were more like
Smaller.
quarter size.
Yeah. So things that size, I wouldn't feel comfortable making sure
that they're not going to head and turn into something else.
Something else, because there are things like amanitas which are toxic that can start like a little button, which can look like, I think, the smoother version of this, but still, I wouldn't try it. In fact, okay, our next one, I'm not going to give you the name, it'll give it away. You can tell me, do you think this one's edible or not? I have, so that one, and I'll run through them and come back through. So edible or not. And I guess that we'll call this one number one. If you say number one is edible or toxic, let me know. And then this pretty thing, is that edible or not? Edible or toxic? Number two is the bright yellow one. Edible or orange? Edible or toxic? Number three is this big brown one. It could also look more white on the stalk, sometimes this color.
That's like 3 or 4 inches across.
Yes, So this is a smaller version of it. This
Yeah,
isn't
this
the
was
one we
like
picked.
2 inches.
This one probably 2 to 3 inches at the base of that stalk, and then the
Head's just a little bit.
yeah, the cap
bigger.
is just a little bit wider. It's probably about 4 or 5 inches tall. So this one is quite a big mushroom. And this would be number 3, the brown one.
And it is on its side, if anybody's
Yes,
wondering.
it's laying on its side, so it was pulled off the ground. I will come back to that. Christy, I see an answer for number 2, but we'll come back to that in 1 second. I have 2 pictures of number 4. So number 4, this is the top side of it. And let's see. This is the underside of it, and it does get a lot bigger than this. It's and it fans out quite a bit. So this, whoops, that's the wrong one. Let's go to the right one. Here we go. So this is number 4. That cap will fan out quite a bit. Stalk is off to the side. Is number 4 edible or not? And let's see if I could get to the right. I'll go back to us for a second while I get organized.
Where's the bright red one?
I don't have a bright wood. I didn't put the bright red ones in here because I didn't identify them yet.
We have it in the fridge.
Yeah, and I'm not sure they're anything you can eat.
I don't know.
They're in plastic bags in the
Always
garage
assume
fridge.
that they're not edible.
Exactly. So we already talked about that one being edible. This one. This was number 1.
It's fairly nondescript, but because it's really silky and shiny and bright white, it is actually pretty identifiable.
Yes, and it has that skirt around the stem. It is very identifiable, and if I give you the name, it gives it completely away. I'm pretty darn sure that this one's called the Destroying Angel. Do not eat this one. It is an amanita. Amanitas are almost all of them, not quite all of them, but almost all of them are pretty much toxic. And this one mushroom can kill an adult.
This is considered probably one of the very most toxic, dangerous mushrooms in the United States.
Yes.
Yeah, so you will be very severely damaged internal organs and such with eating a small portion of one.
Yeah.
Even a bite or two. And yeah, and when that's like 2 or 3 inch wide one, it's a medium sized to larger mushroom. That would almost certainly kill you.
Yeah, this one. So yeah, you don't want to, they're pretty, fun to take pictures of. And if you touch them with your hands, make sure you wash your hands afterwards. And don't touch the edible ones afterwards. I'd wash your hands first just so you make sure you don't get like any spores on anything you are going to eat.
So mushrooms are amazing because they're not animals, they're not plants, they're fungi, but they tend, as they break down material, they also produce very unique chemical compounds as part of it. So they're kind of like little chemical factories, which means they can create great flavors. They can do obviously wonderful things for breaking down soil, but they can create
toxic things.
Very toxic things. They can also create very healthful or potentially medicinal.
Yeah.
So mushrooms are an interesting species because they are like plant factories.
Yeah.
Or I mean like chemical factories.
Fungal chemical factories in a way. Or it's biochemistry happening right there. A lot of it.
Number 2.
Number 2 is this bright yellow thing. It is not edible.
Well, it is edible, question mark. It is also toxic, intoxicating.
Yes, it is. It will not cause you to die, likely. It might make you quite sick. It also can put someone into a coma-like state for a few hours and give them delusions. So, okay, that last part, some people go for mushrooms that do that, but we definitely don't.
Yeah, so this is one of the semi-sought after psychedelic mushrooms.
Yep.
The problem is different ones have different amounts of chemicals. They affect people differently. And so some of them basically produce chemicals similar, almost same as LSD.
Yeah.
So they can end up, and I've known people that have eaten them, and more often than not, it's not a pleasant experience.
No.
They hallucinate and they have very bad dreams for hours.
So this
So it's yeah, it's generally not.
Christy, this one probably won't kill you, but it will make
Yeah,
you
it
feel
won't kill
very
you.
bad.
It'll just you'll trip
Um,
out, and it may not be good.
it is another amanita. This one is actually called fly agaric. It's an orange fly agaric. I think there's a red one that grows
There
in
is a
Europe.
red one. The classic
Smurf.
Smurf red one. It's no accident. It's
It's
a
a psychedelic.
hallucinogenic psychedelic mushroom that they have in the cartoon.
Yes.
And yes,
Lovely. Okay, next one. Number 3 is this brown one. This brown one, we are still making sure, and we're actually going to take it to our foraging friend who does a lot of mushroom foraging and certified in that.
Navi's at the market on Tuesday. I wonder if you have time during your lunch
I
break to
don't
shoot
know.
over there.
I'll have to check on my
I
schedule.
don't think I will be downtown.
Anyway, this one we believe is a king bolete.
I would say we are 95%.
Sure.
We are so certain on it, other than these are a few days decayed and starting to get some secondary mold on them. I am confident enough that I think I would try it. It also smells a king bolete similar
It's a
to a
porcini
European porcini.
or sep
Or
porcini. Yeah.
This has that rich, deep porcini smell. It has the look. It has the lace on the edges. Everything said it's growing under the right type of trees.
The lace on the stems.
Yep, the lace on the stems, the cap. It's in the right type of combination of deciduous and oak trees.
Oaks are deciduous. Pines and
Pine,
oak.
conifers and deciduous. So everything says it's highly identified, and so that's one of your very, highly desirable, lucrative mushrooms. We ran across about 4 of them, and the biggest one was like this big. It was huge, like almost portobello
Yep.
sized. They would be worth some serious money, but they were either decaying, and or they had mold on them or were starting to fall apart. So they really, secondary mold even on a good mushroom can make them or difficult. You can see there's little bite marks out of it where animals and bugs have eaten that. Many times that means that they could be desirable, but
you don't want to trust that.
Oftentimes animals eat poisonous mushrooms that we can't eat.
Yeah, that's
so that's not a good indicator. It's one indicator, but it's not good enough.
And by the way, a lot of these mushrooms I've identified so far as in this book, the mushrooms of the upper Midwest.
Do you have that linked?
Which I'll put the link after the show in the show notes. I do have this linked on the web. Actually, I do not have this linked on today because we're talking about sassafras later. But I'll put in the link in the description later if you want to.
So if you really like earthy, rich, deep mushrooms,
porcinis are nice.
Porcini's the one. I mean, I think it's even a little earthier than a morel, but it's a very distinguishable flavor. So that I've never seen a king bolete in the wild.
Yeah, and there were a lot of them.
There was 4, 5, 6. Our understanding is they tend to regrow in approximately the same place. So we will keep an eye
on it. But the animals and bugs do like it as well. So
yeah, we got rain over the last 2 weeks. If we had gotten out 3, 4 days ago before the last couple rains, it probably would have been.
Caught it.
I probably would have been not only packaging it but bringing it over to Navi and saying, Navi,
verifying it.
I think we got something. We were considering eating it. What do you think?
Yeah. So this is, by the way, under the cap, this in the area, the pores. It's a polypore. It's basically a bolete. So, of course, it's called king bolete. So the bottom of the cap, I don't have a picture of, but looks kind of spongy with holes in it. The holes on these are very small, so it's more like spongy.
The stem is big and fat, and puffs out, sometimes a little hollow in the middle, right?
Usually solid on that unless it's eaten. But
the one we picked kind of was
that was
malformed, but that was
But this one, you can see on the stem, there's kind of this lacy pattern on the stem. That's what we're talking about. That also identifies it. Now the stems can be more white than this. This is kind of yellowed on this one. So we are going to double check on that one, but I'm pretty sure that one's probably king bolete.
I'd say we're in the high 90% on a positive identification.
Yeah. Chrissy said the animals could be tripping.
They could be. Nobody had touched that one. The one that we took a picture of had no bites out of it, no bugs on it. So
okay. Next one was number 4, which Christy said she thinks is edible. Edible in that it's a lot of people is highly desirable especially in Asia. This is one type of reishi. Um, Reishi curtisi, or sometimes known as Reishi lucidum. Lucidum might be a different species from curtisi. Curtisi is supposed to have a more matted look to it, which this looks to me like, and the lucidum is supposed to have more of a varnished look on it, on the back
Some
of
of them
it.
look very varnished, just like you shellacked them.
Yeah, exactly.
Deep red, orange,
So this
brown
one,
colors.
a lot of people gather it as a medicinal. It's not highly edible in that I wouldn't like cook it up in a dish.
It's kind of tough to begin with.
Exactly, it's woody. So a lot of people will chop that up, and this will get a lot bigger, but a lot of people will chop that up and make an extraction, basically boil it and make an extraction from it and use that as a medicinal. So this one's, and we do have, I believe we did reishi as our foraged food, maybe in June,
Yeah,
June sometime. So, and we do have a whole video on foraging for reishi with
those are
Navi.
more. They're I think a little bit different variety,
Yeah,
and they were a lot more older and kind of semi-decaying.
some of them
They
were,
were
but
kind
not.
of, they
Yeah,
had some season on them. This is fresh, new season.
and new growth.
Yeah,
So these often will grow out of wood stumps, sometimes living trees, sometimes dead or dying trees, or stumps that are left on the ground. I actually believe under the spot where we found it, there was a wood stump underneath all those
there
leaves.
was wood, which is what we pulled it off of.
Usually hardwood,
Yeah,
although I think sometimes you can find it on pine, but most
dying maples
in oaks.
and oaks.
Yeah. So this one we are 99.9% sure, and I would use this. It's tiny. I did not take the other ones that were there because these are so tiny and look so new,
We
and they
figured
take
we'd tag it and go back there, and then we were
yeah.
like, well, let's go look at them again,
Oh, we
and
couldn't find one.
we got kind of excited, moved off looking for where there was more. We're like, why is it? It seemed like it shouldn't be that there because it didn't seem nearly wet enough, and we found kind of a low area,
Yeah,
and
and there was
we got
nothing
a little
there.
ways further, and then we went backtracked, and we're like, it's somewhere around here. We couldn't find it.
But as they get bigger, they are bright. They're bright colors. I think we probably
I
could.
pretty much walked by because I was looking
Yeah,
at other things just past it, and Cindy walked by and stopped,
I
and they
always
were almost leaf colored as you or covered as you can see.
yeah. I actually stopped because I was looking at a different mushroom. I was like, oh, that's pretty. I was going to take a picture of this other one, and then I turned. And I was like, I think we have reishi right
And
next
we
to
were
me.
not looking for reishi. We did
No.
not expect to find it under those conditions.
And some people will call it reishi. I probably it's reishi.
Yeah.
Oh well. But Ganoderma curtisi is, I believe, what this one is. So
So
of
that
the
can be a
variety,
highly, in that condition, it can be a highly
highly
valuable,
desirable.
yeah, for herbalists.
Yeah. So those were kind of that was our adventure yesterday. I could have videoed it. Maybe next time we go out to that area, we'll do some I'll videotape some of the stuff as we go. But it was a lot of fun, and there definitely were a lot of other mushrooms I took pictures of.
Yeah.
I just haven't identified them yet. These are the ones I was able to identify, and they're probably the easiest ones to identify as
So just
well.
make a slideshow of everything that showed up.
At some point, yeah. Well, we'll have to go out again because we're gonna probably get more rain this
Yeah,
week.
we may get more rain tomorrow. Actually, a few days this week is looking
Yeah.
like more rain. So that means additional mushrooms may continue to propagate, either grow larger or show up.
And next week is a long weekend for
It
me.
is.
Anyway, you're on your own schedule, but for me it's a long weekend, so I might have time to go out again.
I work almost every day.
Yes. Um,
Do different things, different aspects of work, but I'm pretty much working in some form
well,
every
that's
day.
what happens when you own your own business. You got to keep it going. Um, yeah, it's amazing how some have health benefits and some are so deadly. Absolutely. So they're so different from each other. There's so much variety in all these different mushrooms. And Princess, hello, hello. So yeah, we haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back.
Yeah.
And we do have. We were just about to get into our forage food of the week, although that was all foraging related just a minute ago. It wasn't what I wrote on our website. So if you look at the description down below our uh, our video here, there should be a link to the website for Part-Time Permies, and I do have a blog that goes on that. Once a week, I add uh, a. Are you trying to pull up the other? Because you're gonna pull up behind.
That's what I wanted to do.
Okay. Anyway, so we'll go to the web page has our discussion on sassafras this week. So we feature a different item that you can forage every week. Things we know a bit about on how to identify and find, and we have lots of sassafras on our property. Um,
Really, it's
oh
been
my
that long? I thought we'd seen you a few weeks ago.
I guess not.
We have
Wow.
not been bundled up in weeks.
In
I get
months.
months. I wore pants to the market because
It was chilly on
it was
yesterday.
in the mid 60s at 6:30 when we got out there and pouring rain.
Yeah,
So I actually wore pants for the first time. Because typically the market we're on pavement, so by the end of the day it is
it's
hot.
hot.
So,
Yeah.
so I don't
I
wear.
sometimes wear the zip off, shorts pants that turn into shorts,
I
but
always feel weird wearing a chef coat with shorts on. I don't feel so weird at the market, but generally I think people that wear shorts in kitchens are idiots. So it's a little weird at market, but weather related, I don't.
yeah, I have to. And when it gets into the 80s and 90s, definitely. Otherwise, well, I guess in the kitchen you get hot too, but
It's different. You don't have the sun on you.
it's true.
It's a different type of heat, but generally having
It's a drier heat too, usually, isn't it?
no, because you got boiling water
Oh,
and
true.
kettles and water all over the place usually, so it's usually humid.
Okay, but we'll get back on topic.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, if you click the link below, you can follow along a little bit. But we do have a lot of sassafras on our property. Uh, you have yeah, we have fewer types of mushrooms on our property, but not too far away. We have lots of mushrooms. But anyway, if we go, this is a stand of sassafras on our property. You can actually see some of these curving branches and things are the sassafras trees. If you want to know, it's really easy to identify by their leaves. So if I pull up a picture on that, there can be 3 different shapes to these leaves on the sassafras tree, even on the same branch. You got these like single lobed oblong leaves. You have ones that have only like a thumb on it, so it's like 2 lobes. And you have ones that look like they have 2 thumbs on opposite sides, so like 3 lobes to it.
It's kind of like that sassafras, the sassafras vine that grows all over that's got 3 leaves and
That's not a
it's
sassafras.
got similar leaves.
Well, this is a tree, not a
we
vine.
don't we don't
Like,
smell that one.
no. Sassafras also has a very unique smell to it.
Our foraging, we wore our boots yesterday, of course,
Yeah.
and I had
It
shorts
traipsed
on,
through
but
a lot of
we have
sassafras.
tremendous amounts of poison ivy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I scrubbed down just to make sure, but I had my boots on. But man, we were in a lot of poison ivy.
Well, that's a whole nother matter. But we had a lot of sassafras we were traipsing through
We
too.
went through some sassafras sections.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it actually has a pretty unique history to it. It was prized originally as a medicine and often thought of as a universal healing plant, like a heal-all type thing. It was one of the first exports from North America that was in such demand that it actually incentivized for a lot of the exploration of the New World, but and it is found all over the eastern half of the United States. I don't think it's found out west really at all. Um, I already mentioned how to identify. It's really easy to identify looking at the leaves. You'll often see those 3 different types of leaves. You can also crush it and smell it, and it has a very unique smell. The tree itself can grow pretty darn tall. Ours aren't extremely tall. I don't think it's the fastest growing of our trees here, but
It grows pretty fast. The saplings
the
grow.
saplings grow fast, but
Yeah, they don't
it's
grow
taller.
extremely tall, but they do get pretty big if you let them.
But they say it could grow up to 60 feet or more.
We have some that are 40 or 50.
Yeah. So they're not our
Yeah.
tallest trees.
No, because we have oaks and things that are way bigger.
Um, and actually, they grow both a female and male form. You need both types in order to set fruit on this tree.
What the 1870s is in.
Hi, 1870s. Is it Rachel? or who is that on? But anyway, you guys have to check out 1870s if you don't watch them. They're a fun channel. Uh,
Sassafras tough to plant transplant. For us, they see well they grow from runners a
oh
lot of times and they seed.
yeah,
We have no problem.
they grow from runners.
We've got saplings and stuff all over the place.
Now they're going to be
I
now.
mow over them just to keep them from invading too far into our yard.
Yeah, because they'll send out runners like crazy. So, in fact, you can harvest the roots. We'll get to that, but you can harvest the roots. But the problem with that is if you want, I don't use the fruit of the sassafras, but in order for it to fruit, you need the different genders. And if it's sending out runners, it's a clone of that original tree, so it's going to be the same gender as that tree. Uh, but you'll get these bunches of sassafras growing all together then.
Todd is here.
Oh, hi, Todd. Um, so that's the 1870s. Yeah, Rachel's off in bed already. Um, so yeah, usually you harvest the roots from uh, late fall to early winter. That's when all the sugars and things go down into the roots in most plants. So that's the best time to usually harvest roots in general. You can cut the runners and that would be fine. Wash them and then peel them off and let the bark dry because the bark is actually what you use in root beer. That was originally used in root beer um, as a flavoring, and until FDA said you can't use it anymore, and I'll get to that in a minute. The leaves can be harvested at any time, spring through fall, before they turn color. Though they're more, you want the more tender ones with first growth, and that's usually spring. And they can be dried and stored. So, and then the young twigs can be gathered as well. So as far as the culinary uses, of course, you have your sassafras bark tea or root beer. Um,
Root
either
beer, sarsaparilla.
yeah, sarsaparilla is a different plant though, isn't it? Pretty sure it's a different plant. I thought that was yeah.
The sarsaparilla drink? Maybe it is.
I think it's different. Sassafras is a different. Yeah, it was originally made and a part of all root beer. Um, and the leaves, if you dry and powder them, it's a common seasoning in the South for gumbo and other things.
Down in New Orleans and in
Yeah.
Creole land, not just the South. Yeah, the gumbo filet.
Yeah. And used to thicken soups and sauces as well.
Speaking of dogs that need attention, we've had a dog sleeping behind us the entire time.
And she's
barely moved.
You have a dog that needed attention.
She's taken over our couch. Laying there.
Yeah. So she's a shy dog. She's coming along. We can talk about her a little bit too if you want. But so yeah, sassafras floats, sassafras root beer.
I really like the flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's nice.
The powdered root bark can be used like cinnamon or used on meat as a spice. The tender leaves you can use in salads. Some people will make an extraction from the twigs and use it, mix it with simple syrup and use it as a heavy syrup over desserts or into a cocktail or soft drink. So there's a lot of different uses for it. The traditional medicinal uses was used as a diaphoretic and carminative, used as a tonic to cleanse blood. Externally, it's antiseptic, so externally it's been used for wounds and burns.
I think that's what they used it on meats and cured meats because it helps prevent spoilage.
Growth. Yeah.
Similar to the reason that you'd use cinnamon and clove and other strong oils.
Yeah. And the chewed ends of the twigs have often been used as a toothbrush. So if you're ever in the woods camping and you don't have a toothbrush, and part of that is because it's antiseptic. Extract of the leaves and the water has been used to treat sore throats, usually combined with slippery elm, and also can be used for dry coughs, and often used with last week's featured foraged food, the cherry bark. So we have black cherry trees around here too. Other uses, the oil extracted from the bark has been used in perfume, soaps, cosmetics, and insect repellent. Bark has been added to potpourri. The wood is resistant to insect attack and has been used as fence posts. And the extracts have been used in insecticides and pesticides. Now, if you go down through the page, there is a warning because the FDA does not allow any food to contain any saffrol, which is the oil from the sassafras, mainly in the root. They still allow the sassafras leaves to be turned into the herb that's used in the South. But as far as the roots, they're not allowed to use it anymore to make root beer and sell it legally. Um, what they found was that if taken in high quantity, it can be cause damage to the nervous system. It can also cause liver disease, and to talk about liver cancer. Most of those studies that show that were in animals and mice and rats at very high, very concentrated doses of saffron. Um, it's also been banned for use in soaps and perfumes by the International Fragrance Association. And saffron is also one of the primary ingredients that goes into MDMA or ecstasy. Now, of note, saffron is also found in cinnamon and a whole bunch of other herbs. I'm forgetting them offhand. I didn't put them in here. Cinnamon, maybe cloves, basil. It's definitely in basil, and those are not banned. So that chemical that is so bad in sassafras is we pretty much eat it a lot anyway. So just kind of heads up on it, which is why I say,
Sort of like the whole issue where you talked about with wormwood and potential issues with high amounts of wormwood.
yeah,
And then you find out that sage has an even higher, completely uncontrolled amount
yeah,
of
the same amount,
the
same chemical.
same chemical in wormwood. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, high amounts is probably not good, but I bet you the
No.
alcohol that people drink can be harder on the body and the liver than the saffron is. so um so yeah, I gotta love the FDA. Well, if you're making it and foraging it, you just can't sell it. You can also uh still make the herb and sell the herb from the leaves though. There's the smaller amounts of saffron in the leaves, especially the young leaves, so
Hmm.
it's mainly in the roots. Back in the 70s, ice cream shop in Ashland, Oregon sold sassafras floats. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was a major part of all root beers originally. And then of course it could make its
Well,
own
and Boy
root
Scouts
beer.
and everything else, people would, those were the big things at this time of year. You would use the sassafras, you would use the sumac, and you would make, cool beverages and such with those things.
Well, that 1870s homestead, that law, and when FDA banned it was in 1978, I believe, either 76 or 78. And the two studies that showed that link to liver cancer and some toxicity on rats and mice, one came out in 1976 and the other one came out in 1978. I haven't actually seen many. I did look up studies on saffron. I haven't seen very many at all. In fact, some of the reviews were even questioning how toxic it might be. They didn't say it's not. They were just questioning what level. So it is kind of, one of those that is out there is probably not good in high quantities.
And I don't think most people consume it in purified mass amounts. That would be sort of silly.
Oh, Lois Ann, did I see you earlier? Hello and good night.
So
Thanks for
it's been
joining us.
for
Yeah.
quite a while.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people come in, so right at the beginning. But yeah, so we still use it. In fact, we have
We
a
have a
tincture.
tincture that the primary ingredient,
It's
along with
sassafras.
cinnamon and other herbs, is but the largest amount in it is
Sassafras root.
sassafras.
Yeah, so we have a tincture going ourselves. Um, so yeah, it is kind of an interesting plant in its history as well. Um, I'm not sure who would pay him off to ban sassafras root. I don't
I don't
see
think there's any
anybody
huge,
competing for
commodity.
that. And there's so much sassafras in the eastern side of the state that I would think, and a lot of the big cola companies making root beer were using sassafras as one of the flavors. So yeah, we'll see. Um,
Yeah, probably if people ate a little more of these things in small doses, a few times a year, it likely that it might be useful and definitely not harmful.
yeah.
That would be a reasonable assumption, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and if you want a natural toothbrush, go pick yourself some little twigs from sassafras and chew the ends, and there you go. So, um, and it's got its antiseptic right in it. Um, yeah, so that was our main thing. Um, I should bring up, we don't have a puppy video this week, but I will be putting one together on how our training's going. But for those of you guys who are joining us, we did get, I call her a puppy. She's 2 years old. We got Puddin about 2 weeks ago now. Is it 2 weeks? Yeah.
Well, my
Um,
sister left 2 weeks ago,
yes,
so she's been
exactly.
around here almost 3 weeks.
Yeah. But without her previous mama for 2 weeks, and that's when she got super shy on us. Puddin is a sweet, sweet brindle Great Dane, and we are working with her and trying to gain her trust and things. And it's slow. She's slowly coming around, but she's
She's
very nervous.
hanging out closer.
Yeah,
Same like we said last week. Her her brain wants to hang out and see us and let
yeah.
us touch her, but then all of a sudden, as
She
soon as
gets
she gets
nervous.
a little bit adventurous, she goes, "Oh, what's going on?" and turns around and runs away
Yeah,
and barks because she's so shy.
yeah. She's very shy, but she's very sweet.
Yeah, Pudding is a very dark brindle, brown brindle,
Yeah, brown and black
black, yep,
brindle.
black
So
face for the most part.
and yeah, actually, if you lean towards me, you can see her head. Do you
Her
see her
head.
head right over there? She's laying on the couch using the arm of the couch as a pillow.
Of course, she picked the best couch right away.
Yeah. So we had, instead of making her scared of us by yelling at her more, we just put blankets on the couch. We gave in.
It's the only good couch in the house right now, and
Yep,
she went right to that one. But it
of
is
course.
also sort of where things are
Yeah.
located. But she's been very, very quiet and lazy.
She actually does not bark too much.
No,
Um, and she has been very lazy. Occasionally she'll look at me like she wants to kind of get attention. We've been working on it. She's occasionally come up for a little bit of loving and scratches, but
she
it's,
came up and touched my
yeah.
hand yesterday. She's done that only like twice.
Well, she let you pet her yesterday,
Yeah,
and she let
she's
me pet
come
her
and
yesterday
touched my hand when I've been in bed and like in the morning
to get you out of bed.
once or twice. But she hasn't stuck her face. Uh, Jello used to come stick his face in your face and
Yeah, yeah.
tell you to get up.
And she has been coming back to sleep with us in the bedroom.
Yeah,
She's
another bed.
not on our bed. We have a little antique. It was a hand bed, a walnut bed that someone cut down to like toddler size bed. So I put, it has a nice plastic lining on the toddler mattress, kid's mattress, and I put some fleece blankets over it, and she's been climbing up there and sleeping there. So she has her own bed in our bedroom, literal human bed that she's been sleeping at.
No, no collar on her yet. We
No.
haven't been able to touch her anywhere close to getting a collar on her.
Yeah.
Because we want to take her out for walks. So we think she'll probably, one, enjoy it, but also bond better that
Yeah.
way. But we got to get a collar on her.
Yeah. Which we should have done when your sister was still here.
Yeah,
But
food we've been giving. We went right to the hot dog, cut up hot dog
yep.
treats and other good treats. She's been taking.
Peanut butter treats.
If you coax her closer, she'll be very shy, and then she'll sometimes take a few from your hand,
Yep.
and then she'll dart off and decide she's shy again.
Yeah.
But she is hanging around because I've been just trying to ignore her for the most part, and I'm around a lot of the day.
Let her approach us.
Yeah, so
kind of,
she has come and hung out
near
closer
you.
to me more. Yeah.
And when I'm at this computer, she's usually behind me in this room. So either on the couch or there's a dog bed on the floor. So she's usually hanging out a few feet away. And
She doesn't like balls. She doesn't like. We haven't found a toy that she likes, so it's hard to figure out. Yeah, she's.
Yeah. So we're
No
doing the food.
sticks.
She'll come in and eat dinner while we're eating dinner and things like that at times. So
She did. She ate half a loaf of bread this week. I had a loaf of bread cooling on the counter. I went and took a shower.
left it on the counter.
It was off in a corner on the counter. I'm like, oh, I better make sure it's cooled down enough and it's up in case she goes to get it later. It was on the floor and half gone, so it was almost a 2-pound loaf of bread. She ate probably a pound of it.
And we knew that she likes to go for things off the counter. So
And I think her mouth was up in our stir-fried noodles yesterday because there was a couple noodles on the floor, which I just turned my back to get Cindy to come and get dinner, and I come back
She's
and I hear
sneaky.
her dart away, and there was a couple noodles on the floor.
She's
So
sneaky. She's sneaky. And we haven't been yelling at her because we don't want her to get scared of us. But
yeah,
she's
so it
sneaky.
just kind of let her.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the
She
it
doesn't
was
go for it
funny
when
when
we're there.
the bread was on the floor. I came in, she was so intense, she wasn't eating it, but she'd eaten half of it already.
Bread pudding.
Yeah, she had so she was still in the room, and I just looked at her, and I didn't because I didn't want to give her a hard time and make her afraid. And I just kind of looked at her, and she walked away, sort of and then she started barking and barking like there was something wrong, and like something, like something was in the house. I knew she was acting all funny, like, oh, she knows she wasn't
She
supposed to
wasn't
eat that.
supposed to. She's gotten yelled at that before
So I had to go make
about that.
another loaf. I threw that one away and made another loaf of oatmeal bread for
Yeah.
the end of the day. It was a bread machine bread, so I,
By the way, throwing it away usually means throwing it to the chickens.
yeah.
Um,
She hasn't been scared of thunder, which is crazy because
no, she's not scared. She's
loud
scared of
noises, boxes, not much is bothering her.
noises. Don't bother her at all. We've had thunderstorms. She's been fine
She
with
was
it.
a partially outdoor
Yeah,
dog, so maybe some of the weather things she got more used to them.
yeah. But
But most things hate
in
thunderstorms.
inanimate things, she's fine with.
Hmm.
She's scared of us. She's scared of the cat. She's scared of the chickens.
Oh yeah, she's totally scared of the cat.
She did. The cat did surprise her this week, though. Like, she was laying down on the floor, and the cat's Helix has like figured out pretty darn quick that Puddin will not chase her and is absolutely fine with Puddin. But Puddin will walk a big circle around the cat to get like past it. But Puddin was laying down, and she's getting better about us passing close by when she's laying down without jumping up and running. And Helix was looking like he was going to walk past her, and then changed his mind and went up and booped her on the nose, like basically head butted her right on the nose,
Which he used to do to our dogs all
which
the time.
he did. Yeah, he did that to our previous Stan and our Saint Bernard all the time. And Puddin just like jumped up and backed up, and but didn't run away, but just like, what the heck was that? And then Helix walked off like
Felix is
no
going to
problem.
torture her till she gives in.
They'll probably, maybe Helix will introduce her to us better,
Yeah.
but because Helix is
And
super
no,
friendly.
Pudding is not a rescue. My sister has had her since she was a puppy.
Yeah.
My sister has a number of dogs, so she's grown up with a pack of dogs. She's been a partially outdoor dog and a partially indoor, but she's grown up with kind of the leadership of other dogs,
Yeah.
and she's
And
always
follower.
followed them. So she has no other dogs to cue off of, and my sister isn't around, so she doesn't. So it's been unfamiliar, and she doesn't really know how to evaluate things for herself. So it
She's
is
always been a
almost like
follower. Yeah.
training. Yeah, it's almost like training a rescue dog. I mean, she hasn't been abused or anything else.
No.
She's just really shy.
Yeah, she's always been a follower, and she's always, I guess, when compared to the other dogs in that pack, she was probably on the low end of the totem pole there. And would just follow them and their lead on everything, including whether or not to bark at things or
Whether to
anything.
bark, whether to go visit somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she wasn't thinking for herself. So we've got to figure out how to, at 2 years old, get her to start thinking for herself,
Yeah.
and then also to bond to us, and then we can help think for her. But
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I do have some essential oils in a diffuser in our bedroom. I did towards the beginning. I was using a little bit of lavender, a little bit to see if she would calm and come in there. But I have problems a little bit with some of the essential oils because if I feel like I'm about to get a migraine, I can't take any smells at all. Um, so I'm very careful about that. But if I'm not feeling like I might get a migraine, then I can use them. So we've been doing that a little bit. Some dogs are more sensitive to them than others is the other thing. So you gotta, because they have a more sensitive nose than we do. So as far as animals go, you have to be careful with that sometimes as well. But if it's really a light scent and you're just using just a tiny bit, it's probably fine. So yeah, that might be worth it. And she's relaxed as long as
she's
we're not at,
generally pretty relaxed. She's been laying around the house sleeping. In fact,
yeah,
so much so because we haven't figured out a toy that she likes and we can't really get her out on walks.
yeah,
She goes out into the yard, but she doesn't really play at all.
no.
She's
I mean, I've been going out with her, and we close the door to the inside so she can't run past and go in. And we've been doing a little bit of like if I'm standing up in the middle of the yard, she will do run back and forth, and it's kind of funny if she goes and runs a bit. she starts smiling like, oh, wait, this is kind of fun. And then she kind of freaks out because I'm still there. But she's kind of at the back and forth. Um, and then we settle down and she'll let me, she has come up to me because I'll basically walk sideways or backwards to her. So I'm not approaching straight on to her, just really slowly, and have gotten her to get some pets and stuff that way because eventually she'll relax enough seeing that I'm not harming her. I'm not coming
Well,
front
that's what I
on to
thought. If
her.
we just keep giving her treats
Yep.
and getting her closer and working with her off and on, that eventually she's going to bond. And well, there's nobody else around the house, so
Yep.
that's and she'll realize that we're giving her good things and not bothering her. And we think it won't take too long, hopefully. But we
Yeah.
were surprised at how shy she is.
Yeah. Call me music, by the way. I'm going back to that comment. As far as we haven't tried call me music yet at all. I mean, she's not left at home alone hardly at all, because you're working from
Yeah,
home.
I'm downstairs in the
There's a
kitchen a lot of times, which does have a glass. It's a double glass door.
Yeah.
She comes down and checks every once in a while, but I put a bed down there to see if she would, because
Put
our
a
other
fleece.
dogs I think would have gone
I
down and
don't know.
slept down there or hung out, but
Put a fleece on the bed. It might.
yeah, I could
It's
put
one
some
that
treats
Jello
down
didn't
there.
like as well. Our previous Dean didn't like that bed as much. But if you we have a ton of cheap fleece blankets that we can throw one on
Of
there.
course, if I did that with our Saint Bernard, he would have been pawing at the door, which would have
Yeah.
driven us crazy. But yeah, so I don't mind if she comes down to that part of the basement. She can't come in the kitchen because I can't have dog hair in the kitchen.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be good to have an inspector show up with a dog in the kitchen. You're not allowed to do
Yeah,
that. um, so she's not used to the quiet after all those dogs, maybe. And in fact, our neighbor has some dogs, and we have to ask him to see if he's be willing. But he has like 3 labs over
yeah,
there.
they're not on leash often, but we're wondering if one of them is
If they're leash
put them
trained,
on leash
yeah,
and just come. We have a very big. We have a
nice size yard for her.
we have a large portion that's fenced off, so we
Yeah.
could just give them a little bit on leash and make sure everything's okay, and then just see
The
if they
other
want to
dog
play.
on leash, we can't get her on
Yeah,
leash.
because the problem is we can't get her on leash. We even
Yeah,
have a 50-foot
yeah,
leash, but
yeah. And yeah, and the dogs next door, when they're barking over at us, she's just sitting there staring at them. So it does make me think that maybe she is kind of missing a pack and missing having other dogs here. Um, and so getting those dogs, or I know I have someone, which I have to see if I could get back in contact with, who had a Great Dane therapy dog at our where I work. She's now just working at other locations and not at my location, so I have to see if but I know she lives up the road and not very far from us here. And her Dane is older and, calm,
very calm.
calm, calm. It's a therapy dog. She goes to hospitals with this dog. So I'm that might be another good dog to kind of bring in and just be a calm influence. And that dog loves everybody. So, that's another thought if we could get a hold of
And Danes
her.
are something we figured out. Different dogs play differently and
Yeah.
interact a little differently. So having the right general types of dogs sometimes helps.
Yeah.
Um, our Saint Bernard plays a little differently than the Danes, but
Yeah.
generally all the big mastiffs play somewhat similar, whereas the terriers and retrievers and things um, have different cues and play differently.
And the labs are a little different too. A lab and a
Yeah.
lot of the medium-sized dogs can be very ball oriented or chase oriented type thing. Our Saint Bernard loved to wrestle, but he would be the first one on his back and let the other dogs come at him while he was on his back. It was crazy. But
He didn't mind a ball for a moment or a stick, but that only kept him
he chewed
interested
on
for a
him.
short. Yeah, he'd chew on him, but he wasn't
Yeah.
really energetic
He
about
wasn't a
running
fetcher.
around him too much.
No, no, no.
But he liked
So
carrying sticks around or balls.
he did, especially if you had the other end. He liked going on walks with you holding one end of a stick, and he would hold the other. But that's about all he did, other than chew on them. Um, our previous dean would play games with a ball,
He'd
but
play with the ball for a little bit,
not too
not
much
long.
fetch. But he would actually play puzzle. I call them the puzzle games, where he would take his ball and put it in a bush, and then work to try to get it out of the bush, and then take it and put it back in the bush, and then figure out how to pull it out of the bush again.
Well, he'd
So
bring you the ball and then not give it to you also.
he'd do that too. but he would play with himself for like 5-10 minutes at a time, just making the ball go somewhere where it's hard for him to get it, and then figure out how to get it back. He entertained himself. So yeah, this one's not into balls. She's not into rope toys. Which I picked up a couple stuffies with squeakers. She listens to the squeaker, but she's not really into them. She's never really had toys because she always had dogs to play with. So we'll see. And she's scared of the cat, so she won't play with the cat. Although I think Helix used to get our other dogs to chase him. Like he would go and entice them into a game of chase. So, she has a animal who would play with her or tolerate playing sometimes if she was interested, but she's scared of them. So she's funny. She'll come around. She's very sweet. I'm sure of that. But every dog has its own type of issues, and this one's going to be just a new challenge in overcoming that trust, um, gaining that trust. And we're working on that. Lots of treats. We did get some clickers, so we're using click training a little bit now too. But really, at this point, it's what called load the clicker, where you click it whenever she gets a treat in her mouth. So she's real associating the clicker with good things, basically. But it's not really to any point beyond trying to entice her to us. So working on it, but she'll get there. Um, yeah, as she relaxes, she may change and decide she likes some of the toys. So I
Jello changed a lot over time.
yeah. And my sister has a dog who was basically initially a fairly feral dog who was born near the hospital she worked at, but that at first was very skittish, and was very similar in a way. And now she is like the sweetest thing. So it's just gaining the trust and getting her used to us. So thank you, Princess. We think she's pretty too. I love the brindle color. I love the blue color. So I've had my two favorite color
She's
Danes.
hard to see. Our
Both
our
were hard to
our
see.
blue, our blue one, of course, being gray in low light was a little bit hard to see, but
Yeah.
because she's got the variegated brindle and it's a very dark brindle, she's almost harder to see.
She blends in with some of the dark shadows.
Yeah, she'll blend into shadows instead of a solid
Yeah.
color.
So
Of course, the
yeah,
Saint Bernard was brown and red and white stripe down the head, so
he was easy.
you could see him, and he had a white chest, so you could see him.
Yeah, we never had our Saint Bernard when we had our YouTube channel. So,
No.
but he did make a feature, in the Memory of Jello video turned into a memory of both of them. So there's some slideshows there from last fall. Never knew a dog who could resist a squeaker. I know. She did. I mean, it's not like she resisted it. It definitely got her attention when I squeaked it, but it was just head tilts. It was like I tossed the toy to her, and she's like, "Wait, what's that?" But I think it's more because it's coming from me. But she hasn't picked it up and played with it either, so I don't think she knows the squeaky toy. One is similar. One pit is a similar brindle. Yeah, I like brindles.
Yeah, a lot of pit bulls are brindle. We had a brindle. We had a fairly dark brown brindle English bulldog.
Your parents?
My parents did.
Yeah.
I was around at that point too.
You were there. I was not. So we being you and your parents.
So that's the one other brindle dog that I was familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah, brindles are pretty. And actually, I've kind of wanted a brindle Dane since we went to the Westminster Dog Show, and some of the dogs there that were showing were
She
that
looks like a
brindle color.
pretty, because she's tall and she's really skinny still, 'cause she's young.
Yeah.
Which is typical for Dane. She's normal weight, but
she's 120 pounds.
She looks like a wild animal in the yard walking around. She looks
like a tiger.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much what we've had going on this week. I'll get a video going on. I have a video that I'm finishing up because we did lose a chicken. I actually want to do an interview of us on what happened in the end with that chicken. And then get that out to you this week. And then maybe I'll do another training video on what we're doing with the clicker for pudding. Give you a little update on that. And of course, we have harvests coming in like crazy that we're behind on. So we have a lot to do.
That late summer fall harvest, so that's good. I was given a ton of stuff at the market. I had plans today. Well, I had plans today to package a lot of pasta, which I haven't done yet. So I'm running a day behind. The week just started,
Uh,
and I was going to make some pickled eggplant and possibly caponata with all these vegetables that farmers, they're a little blemished or was two of this and that, and they're like, "Here, take it." And somebody gave me about
the end of
eight.
farmers market. Yep.
Yeah, gave me about 8 eggplants on Thursday, and they're nice, two different types. And we don't have we have some skinny ones. So I was going to make some pickled
We have some
eggplant.
ball eggplants coming in.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And so after I was going to do some of that today, and I have been number crunching almost all day and pretty much finished with
Business.
that project. Yeah, just spreadsheet after spreadsheet,
Yep.
trying to do some problem solving for some contracts and figure out what I need to know. And so that sort of preempted my day. And I'm on call for jury duty the last 2 weeks, so I don't really know
Yeah.
what my week's like.
That's hard.
I didn't get called last week. They said there was no cases. I'm guessing the judge was on vacation. I am on call, but not called for tomorrow. But I have to call in, of course, every night.
Yeah.
So I have to get ahead so that I can do my markets, and my wholesale pasta needs to be ready for delivery in case I get called in a couple days this week.
And I'd love to do a video on what to do with eggplants, since probably a lot of people have them right now, but I don't know what your schedule is going to be like, and you don't want me cooking. So it'd be recording him, but maybe if you get a chance to work on those eggplants, we can throw together, I can record you doing it. So we'll see. We'll see how it comes.
Yeah, so maybe I got to make pasta tomorrow, and then I got to package
Yeah.
pasta hopefully on Tuesday if I'm not reporting for court, and then somewhere in between all that,
Thanks, Teresa.
I have to get on top of that produce before it goes bad, and
Either that or it's becoming chicken feed, which is
well,
not
yeah,
the
I mean,
plan.
but it was the eggplant's nice enough.
Yeah.
I'd like to get that pickled,
Yeah.
because that'll hold for months.
Yeah, that would be good. Anyway, so we should wrap up for the night. It's already 10 after 10. I only got 2 coops closed before coming in,
No,
so
I bet you closed them up.
not all the chickens were in the coops. So I had to wait for the rest of the flocks going. So got to wrap up tonight to get things set, and so I can be awake for work tomorrow morning. But thank you guys for joining us. We definitely enjoyed talking to you. My parents are coming next weekend. We'll still do our live show.
Yeah, it's a holiday weekend, which is fine. Some of you will be traveling or out, but many of you may actually have extra time in your schedule due to the extra day on Monday. We found that I think it was Memorial Day. We had a pretty good attendance,
Yeah,
and we had other people that we'd never met before. So we plan to be here.
We'll be here.
It's kind of a normal weekend for us.
My dad's been in some of our videos. If you see some of the old ones from a year ago, he helped me make the chicken tractor I currently have and a couple of others. So, Princess, no, it was a good discussion.
That's why the chat's there. It's for you guys to do whatever you want.
Yep, so. It's a good chat. But yeah, so maybe we'll have my dad's been in the video this summer too. I forgot we did his birthday, his 80th birthday this summer. So maybe I'll have him stop in and say hi on the video. We'll see. But we'll be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So same time, same place. And I hope everybody has a good week. Good night, you guys.
Good night.